Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this operating budget meeting to order for the 2024 operating budget for the town of Minto. And I'm going to ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Please disclose them now. Hearing none, we have a resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Gunson, that the Town of Minto Council convenes into committee of the whole to conduct budget deliberations. All in favor of that, raise your hand. That's carried. Thank you. So today is our first kick at the cat to have a look at the 24 operating budget. I shouldn't say to have a look at it. Most of us have already looked at it, spent the last 4 or 5 days looking at it, and I know that the staff has been talking about it likely for months. So on behalf of council, I'd just like to thank the staff for putting all the effort forward and bringing a really responsible budget to council. And I understand this is number 23 for Gord. And I also understand that $1, these are things that Gord said last year, $1 doesn't go as far as it used to. So where do we start? On the budget, just 1 second here, let me look. We're going to start with our CAO, Mr. Mark Potter. So I know that I don't have to ask everyone to speak into the mic. I understand that Annalene got an email telling us how great we did last meeting, how everyone spoke into the mic, and it was pleasant to listen to the meeting from our council and staff. So that's a good thing. So go ahead, CAO Potter.
Good afternoon, Mayor Turton and members of council. It is my pleasure to kick off the 2024 budget process. Again, as Mayor Turton mentioned, I would like to start by thanking staff for the work in preparing the budget before council today. Inflation is once again playing a major role in the budget pressures. Staff have prepared a draft budget that will continue to provide excellence in programs and services and is centered around quality of life for all Minto residents. The theme for this year's budget is moving forward. Work is well underway on updates to the town's strategic plan and various master plans. It is anticipated that this work will be completed in the first part of 2024, providing the town with roadmaps that will focus our efforts in the delivery of services. Council and staff will continue to work together, building upon past successes. We have a few quotes that tie nicely into this theme. From Henry Ford, "If everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself." And from Pablo Picasso, "Our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success." The budget process is scheduled to take place over 3 days, with November 7th focused on the proposed 2024 operating budget. On November 28th, we will review any changes or updates from today's meeting and present council with the proposed 2024 capital budget. A budget open house will be held on December 5th from 5 p.m. till 6 p.m., where department heads will be available to answer any questions on the 2024 operating and capital budgets and the linkages to the services they deliver. The process for the budget meeting today is for each department to present their 2024 goals and objectives, discuss the major items impacting the 2024 budget, and answer any questions council may have. Additional details are available from the documents attached to the council agenda that outline responsibilities, budget changes, and service measures for the various service and program areas. With direction from today's meeting and the capital budget meeting scheduled on November 28th, the treasurer will prepare a final budget bylaw for consideration at the council meeting scheduled for December 19th. The following is an overview of the documents that guide the town of Minto in the delivery of services. We are excited to have many of these new plans in place for 2024. The town's mission statement defines our business and objectives and our approach to reaching those objectives. Our vision statement details where we continue to aspire to go and provides words of guidance and inspiration. I will now turn things over to Treasurer Duff, who will walk us through the next part of the presentation.
Thanks, Mark. We're off to a familiar start to many of us. So this page here just kind of provides a high level of where we are and a little bit of where we've been. 22 was basically one of our COVID years. And this year, I think we're closer to normal than it's been. And in 24, you're going to note it's more keeping doing what we have been doing. There aren't any new initiatives or anything. That being said, we're still maintaining what we are doing and what we have been doing in the past. And it shows the various departments and the impact, what we've had. Bottom line, we're looking at a 4.39% levy increase, which is close to inflation. And when we talk, as Mark says, about inflation in the municipal context, our rate is far above the CPI, I'm afraid. Where a lot of things we're in the market, there's a limited number of suppliers, and we've often said we're kind of in the property management business too. And so you've got a lot of double-digit increases, and we keep trying to find efficiencies and try and keep the overall increase to something that's a little more manageable. Next, so this is again just it's a good reminder. Water and wastewater are on a cost recovery, and they're not supported by the tax budget. So that's why we have all our zeros in place there, and we manage that through putting money into reserves and taking it out if it's necessary too. I think this is the key slide. It has our overall tax levy, and just for context, roughly 1% is $60,000. So that gives you something as a benchmark to look at all the other things. So we've got about 10 things that are driving the budget. The overall insurance premium, it's a bit of a guess, but we're figuring that'll be the increase. As you know, our policy comes up in March, but based on what we're hearing, we think this is a reasonable estimate for the increase. Group benefits, again, when you dig down into the figures, a lot of that is driven by the cost of drugs. And even though we have generic substitutions in that, it's still increasing. And both these first two, we have a bit of local control, but so much of it is set as to how the insurance industry is going. And as they always mention, it's a hard market these days. For IT support, we've done a lot in the last 2 years, especially since we switched to using Centre Wellington. I have no doubt in saying the quality of our support and what we have in place is dramatically improved. Then we have these very regular check-ins that we just did this morning, and they go over all the outstanding issues, and we certainly use them. We've been upgrading many of our systems to improve the resiliency and also the interconnectivity, which of course during COVID we certainly recognized the need to do that. And so we've got a bit of an increase in there of 50,000. OMPF reduction, the figures came out last week. Not too bad, but Minto, of course, is very dependent on this grant, and it's down a bit. Not so much this year, but if you look even 2 years ago, it's down about $60,000. And and that's an excellent grant for us to have. Again, it's made up of a complex formula, but basically as our assessment approaches the provincial average, that drives this grant down. However, household income compared to the provincial average, we're still below, so that helps mitigate the change somewhat. COLA, this is based on the policy, which is the September CPI of 3.8. And you'll remember a year ago, we had a bit of a carry forward. So it's 3.8 from the September CPI plus 0.2, using up some of that carry forward. We've got some more part-time labor in the fire. And of course, we're all fortunate to see, I know a lot of departments are struggling having enough, and we're happy to have a lot of new recruits in the last couple of years too. Vehicle fuel and maintenance, that's a real tough one. As you know, we use a lot of diesel, not just gasoline, and some of our fleet, especially the off-road vehicles, as we say, are aging, and that's your best guess on what that'll be. On the positive side, high interest rates are a double-edged sword. They do hurt the overall economy. We're borrowing, certainly not at the moment. That increases costs, but also bank interest and other fees, we're recipients to that. So for 23, I know our interest income is moving well ahead of projections. So I don't think interest rates are rushing down again, so we bumped that up a bit. Assessment growth, as we know, there's no overall reassessment, but our hardworking building and economic department, we're seeing a lot of the building permits and the new construction being translated into tax revenue, so we got a little bit in for there. So this is how the overall 4.39 on the earlier page has been determined. There. And this is based on what we know or can project. So here's our 4.39. Haven't heard too much from the county yet, but we think it's going to be in that range. School board assessed provincially on a kind of a regional basis. In the past, that's tended to be relatively steady. So assuming all things being equal, our share is about $23 for the average residential house valued at $250,000, or $933 per 100,000. And that's based on what we know so far. We may have a bit better update when we meet again later. And then just putting it in, as you know, the world is so connected. Basically, on unemployment, the trends are a little better, but if you remember last year, they were a lot better. So unemployment was really coming down because, especially Europe, it's hard to say. It's 15 years since the financial crisis, and many countries, especially in the south, had not recovered. So they're still showing marginal improvement. And I think from a historic basis, unemployment rates, excluding Southern Europe, are still relatively low. And it's good to have a little bit of flexibility in the labor market. The economic outlook, so the provincial governments, they've had a lot of pleasant surprises. As like a year ago, they were forecasting fairly extensive budget deficits, and virtually every province has exceeded that. As you can see, the 22, 23 are now actuals, and there are a lot of surpluses there. Which I don't think any of them were budgeted. So again, that's an indication of the economy's past strength. However, I think Ontario budget update has come out even since we prepared those slides. I don't think that trend is going to continue. I don't think we're rushing back to the high deficits, but I think these surpluses are going to be harder to repeat again as the economy does slow and those interest rates kick in. The international situation, Slowing growth, which generally hurts a trading country like Canada. And you can see that's reflected in the forecast from 3.9 to 1.6. India is still the top, but the India and China have often been approaching 10%. And those are great markets for our goods too. So I think we're seeing a slowing global economy, and the wars are not helping that situation at all too. So in the overall organizational structure, that's pretty much the same from previous years. You'll see we're keeping the staff complement. Basically no changes anticipated through there. Asset management, we continue. Jackie and I were working on that for an hour and a half this morning. So yes, barely a year ago, we approved the last asset management plan, and we'll have another update for you before July 1st of 24. Again, province continues to expand the use of the asset management plan. And for our Ontario Community Infrastructure, OCIF, they're directly tying our progress on these plans to our allocation. So basically, in a perfect world, we'd have $7.9 million just to maintain our core assets, and core short form, that's public works. That's your roads, bridges, water, stormwater, and wastewater. Our current replacement value, again, part of the OCIF, for last July, we had to update the estimated replacement costs, and by that time we had 2 years of significant inflation. So just for those core assets, we were at $415 million as estimated replacement for 2022. And again, this is still a bit of an estimate, but for 23, town shares roughly 37.8%, education 15.6%, and the county 46.6%. So one check to the town of Minto, but we don't hold on to it all. And this shows where the taxes, you'll notice we don't have water and wastewater on here. So those are the various departments and their share of the tax levy. Again, what we know, so we put in the OMPF allocation, and you know, if you look back, I think we peaked in 2017, so we're down well over 300,000 since then, and if you say prices certainly haven't stayed the same. OCIF saw an announcement a few days ago that the allocations would be out soon, so hope we can have that for you next time too. So, and then that will influence the net change. We're still trying to keep up reserve contributions where we can. So we have 658,000 in this operating budget, and you can see the various departments. And I think I'm going to turn it over for admin. We're going to start with Annaleen.
So
Sure.
how do we want to handle this? Questions after the presentation? Like if we want to ask Gord a question now, we ask him, or we wait till the end?
Yeah, that's fine if you want high level, and I'll do finance later.
Okay, so any questions for Gord? Go ahead. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
I still have, when I look at staffing, I still have this typical question about part-time people who are very hard. I'm assuming these are all full-time, one is free and fire. So where do we capture those hours? How do we, obviously changes, and obviously impact the budget, but they never capture them.
They're not on this chart, but they are included in labor costs in each department. But in service levels, and I know in the finance, I think if you look at T4 slips, like it's over 200, but that could include a person that worked 5 hours at a bar at the community center. But it's also all our seasonal and.
I I understand that, but surely there must be a way of totaling that up and dividing it by 1,900 and coming out with how many full-time equivalents it takes to actually manage the town above the 51.5.
Right,
Is
yeah.
it possible to get that number from somewhere?
It'd be possible, yeah. We'll try and, we'll take a stab at it for 28th.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? So Gord, the IT support.
Yes.
costs. I mean, I understand we've had other municipalities in Ontario breached by spending that amount this year, 2024. Where's that going to get us? We're pretty well protected.
We're, yes, yeah, we're well along the road for there. Even probably personally, you've noticed the cost of computer hardware, I think, still continues to decline. Unfortunately, it's being more than offset by subscriptions and licenses. It's a great model for the computer companies, but not so long ago, you wanted a program, you bought the CD, you installed it, you're done. And now, like Microsoft Office, it's all Office 365, which is a subscription. For all these firewalls and that, there's contingent software applications, which have software renewals and everything. So, as I say, even for like the securities and for these connectivity things, they've moved to that model. We've also put in, like, some of it's capital, which is great, but some of it is small things like, access points and routers and things like that. So that all goes in the operating of the router. I think it's a bit akin to, what was that? Mark Robertson will know. Whenever we took over the active operations of our wastewater facilities, and we actually turned that over to Senator Wellington, our cost did not go down, but the quality, the preventive maintenance in that has really improved. And I think we'll be at that point in the next year or so and be on more of an even keel, like we'll have it up to date and keep it up to date.
So some of the municipalities that have been breached, obviously you don't know what they've done, but they likely have not put the firewalls in that Minto has. Obviously they haven't.
We're trying. It's tough. You're no, not competing, but you're defending against people that are also investing in their hardware and their time, and you're trying to stay a step ahead. But larger institutions are often breached. I think they're more of a target, and try and do our best and at least control what we can.
Okay, any other questions for board? Thank you. Then we'll move along to Annaleen for administration.
Thank you very much. If we can just go down a couple to the goals for CAO clerks and human resources. So as normal, and will be continuous and forever, is works on our record management. So we will be working on further policies as well as providing training to all of our departments on our new electronic management system, as well as our paper records management. Reviewing and updating administrative policies, including the code of conduct, which we have discussed. I'm going to do an internal clerks department service review, and as well update to the strategic plan, as Mark had talked about, and updates to the various master plans, which is your economic development, cultural, and parks and recreation. In looking at the next slide, we'll look at for the mayor and council. We are looking at a change of 8.8%. A lot of that is changes are being driven by cost of living, as well as some adjustments to fringe benefits provisions such as OMERS and healthcare account, etc. For the CAO clerks, our ask again is, just pull it down here, coming in at 672,800. The changes that are being driven for this again are the cost of living. It's at a 2.4%. And our elections, which is of course comes out at a zero, we're asking again for 18,000, 16,000 each year will be going into reserves, which 2,000 each year is for software that we have.
Sorry, Annalena, you finished?
I am, yeah, it's sorry, pretty quick and simple.
Yeah.
COLA is
Sorry.
the biggest driver for a lot of things right now, so.
Yeah, pardon me. Questions for Annalena? Hearing none, then we'll move along to Treasurer Duff.
Okay, so for finance, I guess so many departments, you'll hear this again, updating our plans. So one of the things that we wish to do is purchasing policy, both on amounts and types of transactions and approvals. Complete the levels of service and the other updates to the asset management plan, which we're obligated to do by July 1st of 24. Another mandated thing with no funding that we have to do is for asset retirement obligations. If you hear the term ARO, that's what that means. And that is assets. Unfortunately, we don't have things like landfill, but we do have buildings that have asbestos. We may have some other chemicals to deal with in our arenas. So as those assets come to the end of their life, what do we have to do? What do we have to rehabilitate? And that is for fiscal 23, which will do the work in 24. We're also working with our corporation and trying to make it more of a viable enterprise, and we're working on that. There's other PSAP, which are accounting standard things to do with financial instruments, and these are things driven by the accounting institutes. As I mentioned, we're continuing to work on cybersecurity and other digital collaborations, participating in all those plan upgrades, and implementing our budget system, although I think our system's working quite well as it is, but it's a little more internally based. Overall, because we have some revenue from the assessment growth and the interest, the finance portion is actually down a bit, 23%. Coming from there. And that's that. People and property. So just clean up for that. Onto. Yeah, that's all. Okay, so so for people and property, and that is could be dog catching, bylaw, fence viewing, all those types of things. So again, a bit of COLA. We've moved to the DocuPet system for dog licensing. So we don't buy and sell dog tags as much. It's more of an outside service. Health and social services. So that's our things like doctor recruitment contributions, Center for Excellence, and support for food banks that we did in the last year or so. So a high percentage, but a low number overall. So again, no new initiatives, but just keeping pace with what we have. So any questions or? Economic next.
Go ahead, Belinda.
So our 2024 goals and objectives are very similar to last year's goals and objectives. These are all still important tasks. So obviously the Economic Development Master Plan and Culture Plan, we're looking forward to having those completed and directing some efforts for this year. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, continuing to build out that action plan and have the same of our traveling efforts. Workforce housing strategic initiatives continue to be a challenge, and we're continuing to work towards. Just keep the workforce meeting for our rural rate for unemployment is at 5.6%. And then of course business retention, expansion, and attraction efforts always a key thing to maintain our businesses that are here already to help them grow and succeed. questions? And I'll try to talk louder. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so similar to what Annalene said, the costs or the reasons driving our small 2.4 increase there is all around the COLA, cost of living, and employee benefits. We've really tried to manage anything that's going up and try to find ways that we can reduce. So similar to what Annalene said, it's pretty standard increases. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Belinda? It was quite interesting yesterday, Belinda, when we were on the EDCO interviews, I guess. Every one of those people that are running for office in EDCO mentioned DEI and how that was so important to their centers, their counties, and to everyone. So I mean that's good. We're moving right along on that one, correct?
That is correct, yeah. As the population, like our own population continues to decline, we're gonna be reliant on immigration, and being a welcoming and inclusive community is super important to make sure that our people are living here, people are working here, and continuing to pay their taxes.
Okay, thank you. So building and planning, is it? Go ahead, Terry.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Turton and council members. So we've got a few goals and objectives that we're going to work towards completing next year. The first one is streamlining the development approval process, so kind of making things more efficient for staff as well as bringing stuff forward to council. Another thing that I will be working on with our bylaw enforcement officer will be implementing the administrative monetary penalty system. So this would be for both bylaw as well as building code offenses. It's a different route than going to court. I'm going to explore our cost recovery basis for both planning and building departments. Planning, I don't know if we can quite get there without deterring development from happening, but building we should be able to, to be on a cost recovery basis. I'm anticipating that the 2020 building code will actually be rolled out in 2024, as ironic as that sounds. What that is going to incur on my department is additional training. There is substantial changes to it, so it's going to be learning this massive book from scratch again. And the other is, again, just to help streamline the development process. By getting together template agreements, so just to decrease modification time to them. So although my percentage of increase looks big, my budget is fairly small. So the driving forces behind the requested increase is labor and training is essentially what's driving that ask. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than willing to field them.
Questions for Terry? Seems to me I recall last year you talked about slowing our residential slowing down and possibly agriculture industry going to carry us a bit with the new barns and everything out in the rural. Is that, that's happened, right?
We have seen a drastic decrease in new residential builds. But again, as you mentioned, ag is carrying us through. There's lots of new barns, new sheds, stuff like that. For next year, I'm anticipating that residential will creep back up, not to 2022 levels, but it'll kind of sneak its way up a bit. The ag sector is still looking strong. There's lots of, or the crops this year have been really good. Commodity prices are good, and everyone within the supply management system is seeing quota increases. So the farmers will carry us forward, I'm hoping.
So, sorry. Other questions? Go ahead. Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turk. So I was, the compensation adjustments, I noticed your number was high, but now that you've said that that includes the training.
Yeah.
So what would be the cost for training other than hourly? Like, is it beyond the day's work, or is there an expense in training materials, or like what is it that the training increases that cost line?
So what it will be, so normally I send my staff to 1 or 2 courses a year, which there's course cost, which is around $900 a course, plus any hotels, meal expenses
Sure,
associated
okay.
with it. The training is done during business hours. So from a salary perspective, there's no impact on that. It's just the additional courses. I'm anticipating I may have to send them, depending on the implementation date, 4 to 5 courses this year, or sorry, next year, opposed to the 1 to 2. So that's what's driving that.
Okay, thanks.
So the bylaw, Rick has been a wonderful addition. I understand that things are going well there.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's excellent from both like the enforcement perspective as well as with dealing with our ratepayers. So he's working at fantastic.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, then we'll move along to Chris, Fire and Emergency Services. Harold, please. Nice mustache.
Thanks. Should have started a month earlier so I could have caught up to some of these other people. So yeah, overall, as you can see, our increase is about 4.3% in fire. Its main drivers are wages and cost of living, as we'll get to in a minute. Our main goals, we have to finish the SCBA and compressor purchase and installation. So the installation of the compressor and the fill station, but also the fit testing and training of all the firefighters. That will take a significant amount of time. Recruitment, which has gone well. We're onboarding a bunch more. I can't remember off the top of my head how many we're recruiting and onboarding right now for next year, but with that comes increased cost. Every time we recruit, the average cost per new firefighter, they say, is around $10,000 per firefighter to train them, outfit them, and get them going. We're going to look to continue to enhance our partnership with our partners and find other partnership agreements out there, because we have to. The cost of equipment and that in the fire service is increasing significantly. For example, a new aerial truck right now is probably around $2 million. So we have to figure out a truck plan that meets our goals, but also is within our capabilities of being able to afford. So that could come up with that. We need to update the master fire plan. We're going to do that in-house. This will be our 3rd iteration of it. So the previous 2 we did in-house. This one we're comfortable that we're going to do that quickly in-house. We have a deadline of July of 2024 to complete our comprehensive risk assessment. So that's the guiding document that the fire marshal's office has passed legislation that you have to complete that assesses all of your risks within municipality. And then you have to come up with a plan on how you're going to mitigate those major risks. So that's our main project. And then we want to enhance our training program. We did have to cut our training budget to come within budget, but we're still going to look at enhancing it because we want to, with the new certification guidelines, so all firefighters, fire officers, training officers, et cetera, have to be certified. We have to enhance our program to make sure that people are coming up through the ranks and are going to take over positions someday, are taking the courses and are certified so they're ready to go when the time comes. So as I said, you can see there, most of it's, we've increased the wages to meet demand. We are getting more calls, it seems, this year. Our wages are going up a little bit to compensate for that. So that's the main driver of the change at the stations and with administration. That's about it.
Questions? Councillor Elliott.
Chris, what would a firefighter be paid for if they went out on a call? Would it be per hour? How's that working?
So we have a kind of a hybrid pace. So we're paid per hour, so it's $20 an hour. It is also, with the latest policy, we attached firefighters' wages to COLA as well, so that it stays current, so we don't have to see big jumps. But what they do is they get a minimum of 2 hours pay. So for every call they go out, they get a minimum of 2 hours pay, so it'll be $40. Then if they go over the 2 hour time limit on a call, it kicks into $20 an hour after that. So for every call, they get a minimum 2 hours. If that call is 15 minutes, they still get the minimum 2 hours. But if it goes over 2 hours, then it's just $20 an hour after that.
Have you got a break for any of your people if they got into an 8-hour shift where they're working away? How do you work that or move that in and out?
They just continue on with the $20 an hour. So the first 2 hours would be the $40, and then it's so for 8 hours they'd get $160 for the 8
It's
hours.
work on through.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. It stays at that $20 an hour.
Other questions? Was it last year that we bought software to manage all the training and stuff? How's that working out?
That was a couple years ago. It's working out good. We've got a really good handle on it, comparatively. Some other ones, departments are looking at other options, but we've got a pretty good handle on it, and I'm confident it's working really well. We had to legacy some firefighters over with the new mandatory certification requirements, and it was pretty simple to be able to print off all of the training records that we needed to send to the fire marshal's office to have them grandfathered to the certifications, because we had everything documented and in the system, and it was a pretty quick and easy job to do that. So it's we have a pretty good handle on it, I'll say.
And now Khalees is back. It's even better. I think I heard you say that.
That's pretty much why we have a good handle on it.
Yeah. Thank you. Other questions? Okay. Community service. Matt, you've always got the longest list. Oh, sorry.
So just with respect to services, that includes taking success. That's also offset by
Questions for Matt? Well, go ahead, sorry. Councillor Elliott?
Matt, with recreation facilities, you know, I've noticed that we're, even last year, and it appears we're not gonna put ice in Clifford. And utilities and costs to keep ice in is one of our drivers. Do you think the money that we usually budgeted for Clifford would be an asset for us to start bringing heat into that place so we can offer more programs for Clifford and the area? We become a hub of something. It appears it's just pickleball so far. So as possibility, a lot of ball clubs, all kinds of things, people that could use that facility every day. And I don't know. Have you looked in across the beat? And
So that would be something that you had, advised. So I think you're right. You have any year round. It's not by. It's too cold.
Mhm.
Back to pickleball, we have some balls. So,
Right.
but I think there is some time to kind of look at possibly. I think making some enhancements, especially if you want to run something like highlights.
That's something that I think indoor programming over the winter is in dire needs for every community. And if we could be ahead of the curve on that, I think we could almost break even with what rentals we get there. Sure.
Yeah. And see, that's going to be one of the.
Yeah, 20 below isn't fun to do anything. All right. Unless you're on skis, maybe. Thanks.
Other questions for Matt? So I think last year, Matt, we talked a little bit about as well as in the pools, giving a couple, 3-year contracts to some of our lifeguards. Did we ever look at that? I think I remember that discussion last year. Do you? Am I dreaming?
Did talk about
Yeah.
essentially what happened. It's more of a conversation as opposed to. So if you only, those group, essentially. The understanding of process. Not a 3-year contract. All time.
So if I want to be a lifeguard and I'm 14 years old, what do I do? Do we obviously offer training and stuff all the time?
When you look at the website, you have a. And you do as high as possible.
Okay. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
What do we pay our lifeguards?
So people.
quite competitive. And do they get, how many hours would they get a week? Like, does it have to keep them busy all summer, or are they looking for something else as well?
Depends. Also. Those other places that look at that. Something that. Yeah, this past summer was fun. Something. Read that then.
Right.
Ah,
I have another question too in regards to the museum. Do we don't charge an admission fee to it, do we? Oh, it is by admission, so that's, I was just gonna say, sure, there's no donation, to move figure. Right,
Councillor
Just
Elliott.
quickly, our lifeguards can only work so many hours. They can't. Isn't that I think that's what you told me, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it's quite a pressure zone for anything over 40. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Matt. We'll move along to Public Works and Mike McIsaac, please.
Deputy Mayor Anderson.
So this is maybe a big question, and maybe it goes to more than just you. Fuel costs keep coming up. What happens down the road with electric energy? Because powers that be at higher levels seem to think we're all going to be driving electric vehicles by a few years from now. What impact? Is that a possibility? Is it a reality? Or do we just not pay any attention to it and hope it goes away?
I don't really know. It's definitely something that
Well, and I'm in my mind, and I raised this when we first brought the first chargers. Yeah, we can start there, but ultimately, if every vehicle in Canada is electric, where are we getting the hydro from? They say we have an inexhaustible source, but we can't make another Niagara Falls. So we're talking uranium, and we already don't know what to do with what we have. So I keep thinking about this, and electric vehicles, everybody's hot to trot on them, and I'm thinking, so where are we going to have enough chargers, and I understand they sell these things and they don't give you charging. You have to pay extra for the charging thing if you have to go somewhere else and use it. I'm going, they couldn't get to work because they didn't have the charger, because it doesn't come with the vehicle. But it, and it's maybe a frivolous discussion here, but I don't think so frivolous, because they say it's going to happen. I don't really see how it can. I don't think we have enough hydro, but
there's
because what was the goal? What year is the goal to have us all electric? There is a number out there. Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, well, that's not going to happen. So I think that was the year, but that's not going to happen. Okay.
Go ahead, Gord. Yeah. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Anderson, those are all very good questions. And so like for Mike's department, they're not there yet. They don't have dump trucks and snow plows. Like,
No.
and I don't know when they will. Like maybe building, driving a little SUV, maybe. Yeah, and like I didn't go to AMO this year, but last year I went to the seminar by the IESO, and like, how's our grid handling that? And they reassure us they're working on it. But as you say, like you dig beyond, what's the source of the original power? Like it's natural gas and all that. That's not very environmentally friendly either.
No.
And nuclear is great, but it's base and incredibly costly. And then you have the disposal problems. So yeah, I think 2035 is the year that we're looking at
Is it?
going majority electric. But like you probably read the same things. Toyota's tiptoeing back. Tesla's going. Now, on a positive front, I heard that Ford and Tesla are doing price cuts. Our government seems to have gotten gun shy on the subsidies,
Right.
So the economics are not there. It's a great goal, and Minto's being a leader. We've got 5. I was just chatting a couple of days ago with our suppliers there, and yeah, they're trying to roll it out. I think we discovered, especially from 2 years ago, what we needed, those fast chargers.
Right.
These slow ones are great, but practically speaking, like you can still fill up your tank in under 5 minutes. And for cars and that, like for average people like us, you want it at home. And that's the only way it's viable. And it's overnight, and I don't know, $3,500 for the electrical hookups. And so the economics are very challenging.
Well, and my concern is if we go that way, then hydro has a monopoly on all of our energy sources, pretty much. And what happens to those costs, right? Not that that's going to slow. And I just can't picture a battery that's going to run a snowplow or a transport truck or those tractors that we see go. So I wonder, can we just sit and wait and see and hope, as you say, somebody else leads the way and finds out it's not going to work, and then they can tell us that before we get there? Right. Well, and they're more expensive, are they not? electric vehicles? I don't know, I don't even look at them, but I'm assuming, so if cars are more expensive, I can only imagine what fire trucks and, okay. So we're all in the same position, just watching and waiting to see what's gonna happen. Pretty much, okay, fair enough.
Other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
TLC, it's getting larger every year as we expand our parks and put flowers in the communities and such like. Paul doesn't seem to have enough help. I'm wondering if we should be hiring more summer staff because our volunteers are aging out. It's getting more and more difficult to get people to draw weeds for him, and he has to put staff all the time. I noticed in the back of our park, he's always got people, and he's in every community at different times. So I wonder if there's any thought of enlarging the staff for that program. I certainly think we need that for our communities. It's so hard for them to keep up with it, and Paul would probably appreciate the help. He's not much of a complainer, so but I'm sure he could use that. Yeah.
Just in addition to that, through you, Mayor Turn, one of the things that Matt just talked about was if we hired lifeguards a month early on that, and they can't get into the pools till June, there was 1 or 2 this year that we put into Public Works for the month of May that they help with cleanup and getting flower beds and that ready. So that worked out really well because it guarantees Matt's employees full-time employment through May through August.
Yeah.
And it gives TLC that when that initial cleanup from the winter is when they need a lot of help at the beginning. So that's a plus that the Mike and Matt are working together to do that. So that's been a benefit this year, and hopefully will continue.
Thanks.
Other questions for Mike? Hearing none, then we'll move to wastewater. Mark?
Yeah. Budget. Requirement.
questions for Mark? Okay, thank you, Mark. We'll move to CAO Harold to give the water services.
Yeah, I'm covering this for Todd, who's on holidays this week, but put this together. The big project for water is finalizing well locations for Hairston and Palmerston. We've drilled a test well in Hairston and come up with preliminary results that show a very good water supply there. So we have to do some more work there to get that site ready with an EA and to make sure it could be a viable well in the future. And then we need to shake the money tree to get a full-fledged well there so that we can have one in the future. And then also we are working on finalizing a site in Palmerston where we can do the same thing next year, drill a test well to see if we have a good water supply. And then we can go through the EA and start the process to get that ready to become a full-fledged well site. All that's preparing for future development. That's a big demand on both water and wastewater, is trying to prepare for future development, as well as balance out the needs of repairing all of the aging infrastructure that we do have. So it's a balance that they do every day, and it's pretty tough. As Mark mentioned, allocation bylaw, future servicing strategy is something you're going to see come soon. I heard there's an interim CAO that's holding that up right now, but we are going to get at that. We're going to get at that at the end of the year. That what it'll be is an allocation where you can control how much units you allocate per year to help control and work with growth, that it's done at a pace that we are all happy with and that we can move it forward. And then also the last one is the bring Minto Pines new well into service. It's there. It's not going to be into service hooked up the system probably till spring now because of different holdups with different agencies. So first thing in the spring, they will get that online and get the new well into service, and that'll take care of the Minto Pines water system. So as you can see, there's a slight increase, similar to what everybody else is talking about, chemicals and all that, but there's also some engineering in that to get ready for these new well sites as well. That needs to be done.
Questions for Mr. Harold? All right, thank you, Chris. We'll move along to Gord then, and we'll talk about the non-departmental.
Okay, great. That's just one item, which is, I guess it's fairly simple because we have 100% certainty of what this is. That's our famous OMPF grant, down 18,700. So that's a negative 1.3% change for that item, and there's no appeal or anything. There we are. And, we'll, as always, we'll encourage everyone to keep lobbying to keep that grant in place.
Okay. Thank you. We'll come to the end. Annalee.
I know.
So
Wow.
is other questions? Anyone? Go ahead. Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Question to our treasurer. Do you have any idea where we're going to end up for 2023? How are things looking?
Like Mark does dashboard reports all the time. Not bad. Again, one of the drivers, of course, is fuel, and fuel's been all over the map.
Yes.
Like we started the end of the year, it wasn't bad. Now we went like crazy, and we approached $2 for gasoline. The other thing I've been really interested to see, like pre-COVID, diesel was always lower than gasoline. And then it just reversed and it went way
Well,
up.
I know all about
And
that part.
yeah, well, I'm sure you do. Yeah. And then we're back down again. Oh, this is normal. And in the last couple of months, oh no, diesel's creeping up again. As far as utilities, for 23, as you know, we kind of hedge or mitigate. A lot of that's coming to an end. We usually meet 2 or 3 times a year with our energy consultant, and the last time it was like, I don't really like the looks of these long range contracts, and we've won more than we've lost, but I know sometimes we've lost. So that's another thing that's going to be hard to do for sure. Yep, so on November 21st, that's right, we will be bringing you a Q3, so that'll be till the end of
That was going to be
September.
my next question.
Yep, yep, that,
I
we,
figured that was coming
we
soon,
talked
so,
about that
okay.
on Monday, I think.
Yeah,
So,
okay,
so
perfect.
you'll have a little bit better idea then
Yeah.
too. No crazy surprises so far. And price of oil, like I was saying to Mark this morning, oil's gone down again, which sometimes translates into paving and asphalt and all those other approvals too. So as I say, we've got some gains on the assessment and the interest, but then it's like some contracts and things like cost of supplies and you know, we don't buy a lot of food and materials and that, but you know, like it's, I know the overall's 3.8 or whatever, but some things it seems to be composed of up 25 and down 10
Yeah,
and that.
Depends
too.
what
So,
you need, right? So,
yeah. So anyway, we'll chat more on November 21st.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Anderson, go ahead.
This isn't a question, just a comment. I have heard historically, not here, that budgets can be a really difficult process for council and staff. It has never been that here. And congratulations to you guys so far, because none of this is any more alarming than we thought it might be, and what can you do with inflation? But I think you guys do a really good job of keeping things in check as best as we're able to in these times. And we appreciate those efforts. And I appreciate those variance reports because they help my little head figure out, are we going to be okay by the end of the year, or do we have to do something drastic? So thank you very much for all the hard work that you do. It is appreciated.
Thank you. And we all always keep saying it. Great to work with council and staff, and it's not just the people around here, but buildings down to the front line, and everybody's very conscious of spending other people's money. So we'll keep that attitude in place.
So Gord, you're the one with the crystal ball.
It's pretty foggy these days.
So, I mean, Mike, winter control, if we can, I don't know what the almanac is saying this year, but I understand. Go ahead.
Needs more snow.
But yeah, just to back Mike up, that's worse for us than it is
Yeah.
because more material, we'd rather have, from
Frozen.
Public Works perspective, they would have snow and cold. So just to put that out there, Mr. Mayor, sorry about that. A lot of misconceptions that people have, well, it's warmer, so our winter maintenance budget should be a lot better, but it's contrary that the warmer it gets, the more we have to do for winter maintenance.
Okay. Thank you. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the committee of the whole convene into regular council. All in favor of that motion? Notice of the motion, there is none. We have no bylaws. Couple things. I agree with what our deputy mayor has said. We certainly look at this as a very easy process. This budgeting is easy for us because of you, our staff. So, I mean, we talk about the big 10 items on this list. It's like winter control. We really have very little control on those 10 or 11 items. And I mean, for our staff to keep, we keep talking about all the reasons why our budgets are going up and a little bit. And it's tough to look at those. Every municipality is dealing with the same. And we look out at our ratepayers and we hope that they'll come and ask questions, because all this isn't pie in the sky. It's what everybody's faced with. So two things that I want to add is November 11th, please get out to the Senate House and spend some time for the folks that give the ultimate sacrifice. And the second thing is shop local. I mean, what we really need to do is help our businesses downtown, and the more we can shop local, the better it is for them and us. I mean, as taxpayers, the more businesses that we have, the better off we are. So please take that into consideration when you're going shopping. Our restaurants and everyone are they're suffering and we need to help. Need to support them. So adjournment, resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Gunson. With the council of town of Minto adjourn the meeting at the call of the mayor. All in favor of that motion? Thank you. And thanks again to everyone.